Ayer Council on Aging, 18 Pond Street rear, Ayer, Mass. This meeting will be held in person at the location provided on this notice. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation via Zoom is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting/hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast. Unless otherwise required by law, members of the public with particular interest in a specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may access the proceedings by joining Zoom meeting ID number 375-414-6055 or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, Assistant Town Manager at atm@ayer.mass.us or 978-772-8220, extension 100, prior to the meeting. I will call us to order at 2:05 p.m. Do I have an approval or an amendment to the agenda?
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as it stands.
Second.
Cheryl? How do you vote?
Yes, I vote aye, yes.
Mary?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Public input for the agenda, do you have?
Do I have anything?
Yeah.
No, I'm just here to familiarize myself.
Wonderful.
Wonderful, and welcome. Okay, I didn't realize you were going to put in all the minutes. So I only put in April.
Well, you would have gotten September before you,
Right.
which is fine.
Oh, so I should have made a motion to adjust them.
Well,
I think you could let that slide. All right.
yeah, so, but on the April, which were the minutes?
I think it was
I
March
think it was March. March was the issue. We had the
that you
we
asked
lost
for.
connect and
Assistance on the,
Right.
so does any, Cheryl, on the March minutes, there was a brief discussion about the feedback that we had gotten from the social work.
Right,
The letter to the select board or the town manager's office regarding our urging them to, proceed with hiring a social worker. Do you
Correct.
remember what the gist of that conversation was or any conclusions?
Which meeting did,
It would have been 2 meetings ago in March. We had sent a letter.
right, someone came from the town hall that, we addressed the letter to and was very supportive of the council's letter and assured us that they were gonna be, pursuing hiring and talked about that. Was that Mr. Pomprian that came?
Yeah, that was, so that was, yeah.
And there was some conversation about using coin or that coin would.
Yes, that program,
They were looking further into whether or not
Right.
coin being acceptable. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. All right, so I will amend the March minutes to include.
do we have a recording of that meeting? Because that might help.
No, there was some technical issues with that meeting. and
Okay,
it
Yeah.
got corrupted.
Was that was the one that ended up being in like 3 parts, I think, and
when Carly starts the meeting, I think is the issue. So, now that we have fixed the time that the friends are meeting, I will be reliably able to start this meeting. So shouldn't have any more technological issues. Plus my labyrinth of cords here should hopefully make sure we don't have any disruptions. My only edits would be that there's so much information here under the director's report. If we're posting the director's report, we probably don't need it in the minutes aside from like
See directors.
see director's report or something like that. That's up to you, Dennis. Like, I don't know if that creates more work to take it out when it's already
Yeah,
there,
but
but
the director's report have to be included as part of the packet that's submitted as part of the agenda in order
Because we're
to
talking.
do that.
right. So, so what would need to happen is like today's, I sent the director's report for today. I sent that out yesterday.
Yeah.
And so then at your earliest convenience, you need to email,
Right,
Max
But I
to get it
didn't-
posted.
I got it yesterday.
Right,
Right.
I probably won't have it to you, because
Mhm.
you're posting the agendas more than 48 hours in advance.
No, I posted. Yes, because
Yeah.
I was out of town.
Right. So I'm saying is they don't necessarily have to go together, but for the sake of the minutes, they either should be enclosed in the minutes or,
Separately, as long as Matt is posting the director's report as part of the agenda, as part of the agenda packet.
right.
As long as that occurs in the minutes, you can make reference to that document as,
Yeah.
okay.
Would it
I
be
don't
part of
really-
the agenda or would it be part of the minutes?
See, they changed it on me because when I was the clerk, I submitted everything with the minutes.
That's what we're
So-
discussing it.
So there are two pieces to that, yeah, and I agree, we have not been consistent with it over time, so, if we're gonna refer to it in the meeting, if it's a document we're all referring to, then it needs to get posted in order to meet the rules of the open meeting law, the requirements of the open meeting law. But I hear what you're saying as far as if it's gonna be referenced, it should probably be enclosed in the minutes, so maybe it's both.
And when you say enclosed, attached as a separate document or written in, copied and pasted
You
into
could
the
just-
body of the
You
minute?
could just copy it and paste it in there, or if AI is doing it and it's getting the main gist
Well,
of it, it probably
that was
doesn't.
essentially a copy paste rather than.
Okay, all right, well, so then that's fine.
So can I attach these to maps? Or do I
That's what-
send them to agenda?
So Max posts things on the website.
Mhm.
So if it's going up with the packet, it goes to Max. And then if we're including it as part of the minutes that will be posted, then you take the paper copy or the
I use-
email over to the town clerk.
Which I used to, but when did the agenda this time, I attached the evaluation.
Mhm, right,
And I did post early because I went out of town
right.
Wednesday.
Yeah, so they're just two different rules, two different sets of requirements you're trying to meet. One is so that anybody joining, like Cheryl from
Mhm.
online, that they can see the materials and follow them along like we do. And then the other one is how completely separately, how we process minutes.
So I won't post the agenda next time until Wednesday. Before the meeting.
Mhm. I'll do my best to have it ready, but as
Can we try to get everything in?
absolutely, but just to set expectations.
I know
that
you
like.
get busy.
No, agree, but to set expectations, I can't always do that, and
You
so
can't drop.
most
I know.
chairs are submitting the agenda
Mhm.
and then following up later with Max
Okay,
for attachment.
That's
So I
fine,
would
okay.
set expectations
But-
that it would be a multi-step process.
should the minutes be, because what if we are amending? How do we justify that afterwards?
What's the question?
How do we? If we're submitting minutes. and then amended.
That's why before, when we were doing it, they were always titled as draft with the watermark on them like this. And so then they're in the packet as a draft, and then they get posted on the minutes column
And
when
with-
they're final with
and
the
within-
signatures.
Within the meeting itself, if there are some minor changes, spelling errors, name mistakes, the body can decide that they will approve the minutes as amended.
Okay,
They
so,
will then rely on whoever is making the amendment to make the proper amendment and then resubmit it without having to go through another vote.
so then. Do I have to resubmit them, or when you submit? Say like June,
Yeah,
when you submit the minutes.
they will either have been approved as written, or they will have been approved as amended, in which case what was included in the packet would not be identical to what was
Right.
ultimately voted on, which is gonna be fine. Or they could not be approved because they were insufficient unavailable, that the amendments were
I
considered.
just want to make sure I'm not having to do it twice.
Mhm.
For June,
Do what was
the minutes, submit twice.
submit to,
So you would be submitting draft minutes
And
before the meeting as part of the packet.
then,
Then it's Dennis's responsibility to
That's all I'm
sign and take the minutes over
yeah,
to the
That's
town
all I'm
clerk's
asking.
office. Yep.
that's all I'm asking.
Yep.
Okay. I don't want any more trouble.
All right, so then you're gonna do some more substantial edits to the March minutes.
Yes.
So we're tabling those until later. So what about April and September?
those should be fine if people have had a chance.
Um,
People should have had a chance to look at April's. I sent out September
I don't
after.
think it's that April, Dennis.
That was the first one that came.
Yeah, I don't know. Again.
I didn't have any
I
issues with
didn't get
them.
any?
I didn't have any issues with them.
Oh, you got.
I did have them. I read them, Dennis.
Did you really?
I did read them.
Oh,
They were
God.
I
fascinating.
think I buried on that, Dennis, I'm sorry.
Fascinating read.
Mhm.
Yeah, I didn't think I had any
Not good reason, but because it's been a busy weekend.
edits on those.
Mhm.
Either one, if you wanna make a motion to
I'm
pass
just
this.
waiting to give Mark
Yeah.
to make sure,
I'm just standing
sorry,
there.
just-
I did read this. And
just to make sure.
yeah,
It gets better from here, you know. It just into your seat for the conversation.
okay, no, I'll make the motion that we approve April's,
I'm just saying.
April and March and September's.
April and September, I can have those.
Okay. I second the motion.
And Cheryl
I say
What's your-
yes.
and Mary
Yes, aye.
and Dennis,
Aye.
and I say yes. They are approved.
Okay, so April and September are
April and
approved
Sep-
and we're waiting on March to fill in some gaps.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. The next one, the Pleasant Street Park Grant Project. This is interesting. Katie and I saw. And we think we should open this up again.
I'm sorry, Katie and you,
Saw the DPW. Working on. Filling holes. Out here. In the parking,
down here, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and. We think. That we should approach the DPW. About
The curb cut.
the curb.
Mhm.
We have nothing to lose by asking the DPW
To do what?
to look at the ramp possibility and fixing, making it a little handicapped accessible.
Well, I mean, I think that we would need to clarify. It's my understanding, again, that the housing authority controls the park in the parking lot. And they have jurisdiction over that. I think it would be problematic for us to ask the DPW to intervene on housing authority property to tell us what they
Why
are.
is DPW allowed here?
I have no idea.
Well, that was what we were observing, because we've gone around and around a couple of times about whose responsibility, whose funds, whose initiative, right? And we kind of hit a stalemate between what housing felt like they had the funds to do
Right.
as a whole big external project versus what the DPW could just do.
Right.
But the DPW, it was inferred that the DPW maybe couldn't do it,
Gotcha.
but I don't know that they were ever directly asked.
No, I don't think they were. I think at some point in the past, evidently, they had. Yeah, I don't think that they were ever formally approached or officially asked in any way. Could you just kind of do this so that it's a little better?
Right.
I don't think that has ever occurred.
I don't think DPW was ever approached.
Not to my knowledge, I don't think they were. So I guess the question would be, it was sort of presented as though never the two shall meet, but they were here plugging potholes. So, and bless them for doing it, because the parking lot's bad down here, but it was even worse after this winter. So, I wonder if there is any utility to reaching out informally rather than formally, probably. It's coming to the end of the budget cycle. I don't know if they have funds left over. If they don't, if they're able to do it without a study, you know what I'm saying? Like,
And
who
would,
knows?
It's a letter request, like we did to Housing.
No, that would be more formal.
Yeah, it would be
a letter request
to
to
DPW,
do what?
like we wrote
Put the
to
curb cut into.
the curb.
To put in a handicapped accessible way.
Mhm.
And when you say like we did to,
The Disability Commission, somewhere there's a copy of that letter. in-
that we sent to Ken, that the Disabilities Commission sent to Ken Martin, asking him about the process for trying to make that happen, that letter?
Yeah,
Right, but that is, I don't think we have the ability. Well, how did it happen that the DPW, let me ask this, how did it happen that the DPW came down here and started filling potholes?
We don't know, that
we don't know,
right?
we do not know.
Would it be appropriate to request a meeting with DPW just to see what the protocol is, so that we don't step on anybody's toes?
That's what I was gonna suggest is something more informal, like hey, if we were trying to make this happen.
Well, if it's, yes, okay, so, but if we want to make a informal overture to the DPW, I think we can do that, but it would need to occur outside this formal
Yes,
process.
yes,
So we can't formally request that somebody make an informal, I mean, I think that would be a little clumsy. So the question is, who would call Dan, I guess, or the head of the highway, who's the head of the highway department or the road fixing?
That I don't know.
So who would
So
call
I-
Dan and say, hey, Dan, what would it take to do X?
Without them sending a bill to the housing authority,
Yes,
Right.
because that's,
so Okay,
That's an
so,
outcome that could happen. They could say, well, we'll fix it, but it's gotta come out of somebody's budget, so housing authority
Well,
owns that land, we'll bill them.
Well, without somebody getting halfway through the project and the housing authority saying, well, wait a minute,
so I'll tell you what,
yeah.
would it be okay if I were to just have a conversation with Dan and flesh out
Yep.
from his perspective?
If it's possible, if it's feasible,
Yeah, and what he would need, or
yeah.
would he,
Could he do it? Could
yeah,
they do it?
could he do it, and what would it take for him to feel comfortable doing it? That is, I think as a matter of engineering and asphalt, I'm pretty confident that he could say, yeah, we could do it. As a matter of whose ground, whose budget, whose timeline, you know, he may not, but anyway, I'll make an overture. I'll reach out to Dan, see
Yeah.
how open he is to discussing the possibility. And then we would take that information presumably to Ken Martin and just kind of make sure that that doesn't interfere with, yeah, so.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what comes of it. Because, yeah, all right.
Thank you. We need a motion on that, or just, that's fine, great,
That's fine.
That's fine for now.
yep. That's awesome. Just a reminder, we all got yesterday too from Carly about the, open meeting law tomorrow night. 6 p.m. If you wanted to go to town hall, you had to RSVP. Yeah, but you can do Zoom. You got all the information on your email. Yeah. Dennis, how was it your Newton on the regional transit?
It was interesting, they had, probably 20 people showed up or so, well, 20 people in person, maybe 3 or 4 remotely. They had a fine selection of pastries. Coffee was good.
Person.
Oh, yeah, I think that, so the, it's I mean, it was instructive, I think. It was the initial meeting. Chelsea, who is the regional coordinating council person, she kind of saw that as the initial meeting, and that into the future, she would be handing off the running of the meeting with her subordinate, Lois, who would then carry it on from there. There have been no additional meetings scheduled. I reached out to Lois and Chelsea, inquiring about that, and they anticipate a second meeting occurring sometime in mid-June. And there is no set agenda or well-defined tasks or clearly delineated path forward. So we'll see where that goes.
Is it more fact finding or is it?
It is, I think it's an effort to, there are an alphabet soup of the Massachusetts Regional Planning Commission, the MAR,
Yep.
run by Bruno, who was in fact there. There was Haywood Hospital. There was a concerned citizen from Gardner. Most of the people there were were employees of nonprofit organizations and or government agencies who have some stake in improving transportation in the region. And it's not clear to me that the interests always line up. There seems to be some funding floating around between the various or with the various agencies. And some sort, and some sort of my sense of it is that there's a remarkable amount of diffusion of responsibility because everybody is involved, no one is responsible. And the regional coordinating council is because Mark can't do it all or doesn't feel able to or capable of doing it. And the Massachusetts Regional Planning Commission sees it as marginally part of their brief, but not really something that they should be concentrating on. So in an effort to get all the parties in the same room at the same time, you create the Regional Coordinating Council, which then gets those parties in the same room at the same time and hopefully generating some.
Were there other municipalities there in the area, or we?
Interestingly, no. I was really the only representative of some kind of municipal entity, like they were a little surprised that Gardner didn't show up because evidently transportation in Gardner specifically is like a big deal.
Yeah.
There was a representative from Hayward Hospital, who has a lot of, I guess, stake in. There were also some folks from like a youth services organization whose interest in transportation was, if we have a foster home or if we have kids, who are recently left high school and have got a job, how are we going to get them to work? Because I can find them a job, but how do they get to the interview? And if they get the job, how do we get them from where they're living to the job if they can't afford a car? I suspect that for our purposes, that is for Ayer, to the extent that we can make Katie's vision of a single fixed route transport around town combined with the other van, which is doing, trips out of town, et cetera, we will have a very solid base of transportation options. Above and beyond that, how you fill in the individual gaps of getting person A from here to there because they're on an odd schedule or their physical infirmity prevented or their financial circumstances are limited. That I think has to be a really localized fine. That is, I don't think we're going to get the solution to that out of this effort. We may get some funding out of it. That is, we may be able to say, oh, you got a X amount of dollar grant for doing X. Would you be willing to give us some portion of that and we will do this with it in order to get it? And that, I mean, that will be worthwhile. But I don't think that, again, assuming Katie's vision comes to fruition, and there's some good reason to think that it may well, the gaps that are still left after that point
Yeah.
are going to be.
So part of this, part of that grant that's floating around, Mart has part of it and China 9 has part of it, is funding our secondary driver for the first year. Until it rolls over into the town financing, which again, to your point, there was money for there could have been money for us to do it anyway, but to ease it in with the grant funds makes a lot of sense. And then it bridges like when you're not at the start or the end of a fiscal year. And then being able to, to say that you're getting outside money to help with the burden of it is always helpful too. But I agree with you. It seems like the needs of some of our surrounding towns are very different than our needs here in town. So we're not as rural as like
Winton is.
Yeah. I don't think Winton does.
One of the towns up there just lost their grocery store.
Okay.
It's a W town.
Westminster.
Westminster, okay.
So they are trying to get busing to get people to get groceries.
Yeah.
That I know, I mean, they're working really hard.
I mean, I think that one thing that might be helpful, again, this would be a longer term project, is for the seats, how do we get well-defined transportation needs from the community? That is, John Doe needs a ride from here to here every Thursday for PT or whatever. And Mark's not gonna solve it for us, Massachusetts Regional Planning Commission. I mean, we have to know John Doe and with a highly specific kind of needs, and this is how we're gonna help him fill that. And it may be, again, funding Ubers or that taxes.
But that's what the COA van does, like, we take people to their regularly scheduled.
No, I know, but-
appointments, yeah.
To go, I mean, to the extent that that can meet it, that's gonna be great. It's, again, anything that's falling outside of that. I don't think that Mark or the Massachusetts Regional Planning Commission or the Regional Coordinating Council are gonna be able to fill those holes.
No, I don't disagree with that either, but I think right now is getting some of those basic transportation services taken care of.
Right.
If you can get that taken care of, then you can move into some of those other pieces or the fill-in pieces. But until you have this basic needs taken care of, then everything's critical.
All right,
Once this is taken care of, that criticality moves. So now you've got really identified the true pieces, I think, that will need is more assistance or more work.
I mean, one thing I've become aware of, the ride sharing app Lyft has a what's called a silver app, which is specially attuned to all it's specially attuned to seniors. The app has been simplified. There is a phone number that can be called if whoever's operating the app. It's designed to make it more senior friendly.
Yeah.
And for people who are unfamiliar with Uber and or just feeling overwhelmed with it.
Nice.
I don't know whether we wanna, I mean, I use Lyft sometimes. I don't know whether we wanna try to train people on how to use Silver. It's a separate, it's a simplified version of the Lyft app.
Yeah.
Have a phone number.
Make a note of that.
So you'd also have to find out how many Lyft drivers are in this area
That
This-
is,
that are silver, probably certified if that's the
Yeah.
case. There's no sense in going out and publishing it if we don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and again, for us, I think it's relatively simple. For the folks out in Westminster, Winchendon, further afield, they do seem to have a shortage of drivers, but I've never experienced a shortage of either Uber or Lyft
In this area?
in this area.
Okay. 'Cause they've had a
Have you?
Yeah, I don't use them in this area, but I had a neighbor that did, and very often there would be no shows.
Oh,
You know, after somebody accepts the call, there would be no shows,
yeah.
so.
yeah.
That probably will be alleviated by our new grant. Well, not my new grant, but the Mark grant for the microtransit, yeah.
Okay, Katie,
Thank you for that report, Dennis. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dennis.
All right.
no, I
so-
think Chelsea's working hard to get,
Well, sometimes it's a matter of getting everybody on the same page as far as what's available,
and she doesn't have time, I don't think, to come to every town to see what the needs are.
Yeah, in the towns, again, I don't think what our needs are. Yeah,
Every town's different.
Did you
Yes.
feel like most of what they were working on were more rural concerns than what Ayer is dealing with, or did you just feel like it was just very specific town to town?
it's very specific town to town, but my sense, because we are the furthest east and because we have the train station,
Right.
I think their perception of us is those guys are pretty flush. And part of that is we are just such a small town geographically
Mhm.
that it don't take a whole lot.
Right.
You know, you're not,
Yeah.
in 5 to 7 minutes, you can go from one end of town to the other. You know, if you're out in Westminster or Gardner, then you're driving quite a ways.
It's spread out.
And,
There, I think the train station, the fact that there is the train station, it's located pretty much in the town center.
yeah,
Gives them that
that's right, yeah. So,
perception that they don't have transportation
Yeah.
issues.
yeah, so we, yeah, so I mean, I think their perception of us, and it's not inaccurate, is that their transportation or we are better connected to the outside world, for lack of, than they are. And it's a matter of geography and the fact that we have the train station here and that we're a condensed town.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
All right, in terms of the director's report, April was a pretty typical month, 139 seniors here, a total of 573 times. Average daily attendance was 27 people, but it ranged anywhere from 14 to 38 people in a day. That doesn't include the Meals on Wheels clients or the 60 van riders. It also doesn't include the outreach clients, the 27 outreach clients. So these are program statistics, not total usage statistics. A lot of great programs in April. The evening Medicare informational session went very well. We did fall prevention, Medicare fraud with the Medicare senior patrol. We did a spring and Easter luncheon, attended Senator Eldridge's Senior Day conference. There was a lot of confusion about that. I'm, mentally reworking how I would describe that in the newsletter next year about what it was and wasn't and where it was. We had our annual volunteer appreciation luncheon and the AARP Safe Driver course. I'm always amazed that there aren't more people attending the Safe Driver course, but there was a handful of people, and then a webinar on artificial intelligence. Sorry, let me just put my head in to see.
I'm not really surprised on the AARP. I think a lot of seniors think that might be the first time they'll lose on their license.
But I know sorry,
a lot of seniors.
we don't do anything with we just don't.
A lot of seniors, I think.
It's the first step of losing their license.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't. You're not gonna get many seniors saying, yeah, please.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there was a husband and wife that did it.
Yeah, I think that's sort of, that would be my thought.
You're gonna pry these keys out of my cold head.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, we had a for 1 year and I said, yeah, this. Okay. Again.
Oh, sorry.
I think it was there, Katie.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay.
So like I said, you didn't hear that. I think a lot of seniors aren't gonna volunteer to take a safe driving class. I think that's the first step in losing their license.
Oh, well, what's interesting about it, I try to advertise it, is that a lot of insurance companies will give you a discount on your insurance if you have taken the safe driver course. So, anyway, it's
It'll also
important
give
to
you
offer.
discounts if you sign up and let them monitor you when you're driving too.
That is true. So then we also did a needle felted hummingbird and flower arts and crafts class, which was very popular. Let's see, we did outreach services to 27 seniors, a total of 42 times. It's always kind of it doesn't vary wildly, but transportation just happened to be the most frequently sought assistance this month. All the rest of the things in the list, wellness checks, food security, housing, financial management, health insurance, all of those things were also important and needed. We had.
They actually call here the wellness check. Not the police.
Huh?
They call here for a wellness.
So there's a lot of different places, a lot of different opportunities for a wellness check. So for example, we have a friendly visitor program. So
I know that.
there are some people that Mary Ellen calls each and every week as a check-in.
Mhm.
Then there might be wellness checks done if we notice that someone has no-showed or canceled frequently in the last couple of days for lunches or events, we do a wellness check on them. Then if someone does not pick up, if someone's not there for their Meals on Wheels, then we do a wellness check on that as well. And what constitutes a wellness check could go anywhere from a phone call all the way up to engaging public safety.
Yep.
So it just depends. It can go from an "Are you okay?" to, and they do each and every month, we have that full range of them.
Yep.
Yep. So then we participated on April 16th in the Ayer Shirley Regional School District Career Exploration Fair. They had it in the gym. A lot of town department representation and then a handful of private local businesses. I got the sense that this was maybe only the first or second time that they had done a career exploration fair. I provided some feedback. They did it after school on a day that there was a home game of something. So a lot of kids walked through the gym in their uniforms on their way out to the fields. Versus having it during like however many lunch periods they rotate through, or flex period or something like that might have had higher student participation. So there was that. And then we're doing the Devon's Food Truck Festival on May 31st. Anyone who wants to come hang in the booth with me is welcome to. I believe it's 10 to 4, but let me double check that. So I will have out all the drawings for the new building, the proposed new building, and the Friends are hopefully going to have like a flea market type table to sell goods and bobs. And then, yeah, so that should be good. And that will be a very different audience than, who would come to the senior center or who would come to even necessarily like the Newton Street Festival. So I think it's going to be a really great opportunity to do some outreach about the senior center, the building project, and the Friends. Meals were pretty typical this month. 58 seniors attended a total of 312 meals. Our meals are very popular. That I think is a mainstay of what we're doing here. I keep spreading the word to other councils on aging about how successful our model has been. A lot of them are struggling with declining meal participation. Social and exercise participation is flourishing, but their meals participation is declining because no one wants to eat the Meals on Wheels food. It's just a different generation of seniors than it was 5 or 10 years ago. So I've been putting in the good word that restaurant food at deeply discounted prices sells.
As opposed to,
Right?
my aunt was complaining about Meals on Wheels food 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I know, I didn't touch it.
The volunteer numbers, as I said in the report, are a little, they are off what they normally are. So we had 19 volunteers working a total of 432 hours, which is valued at 5,163. That's actually not true, because when I suspect it's around 15 who worked around 150 to 200 hours. The reason it appears to be inflated is that some of you don't check in. So you can check in for your event, you come here. Yes, I am at the COA board meeting, but unless you hit the volunteer button next to your name and you're logging your volunteer hours, because here you're actually not really attending the event. Penny's attending the event, but you guys are volunteering.
Yeah.
So, the correct way to log I don't care if you log in that you were in attendance, but to put your volunteer hours in, same thing for the building committee. But I don't really count the building committee's activities as a program of the senior center. It is by extension, but, so what I did is I went back through and like Dennis, you hadn't checked in, I don't think at all for volunteer hours. So I added 24 hours the last year, 12 hours, 12 months, 2 hours per meeting, right? So it's making this number look really inflated for this month, but it caught me up to April Volunteer Appreciation Month.
After the meeting, you can show me where.
I would definitely do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Katie, because I'm only virtual, do my volunteer hours count?
They are not, and so I added yours in manually. So,
Thank you.
in all my spare time, I should go back and
Mhm.
add in 12 entries of 2 hours for you guys to fix it on the correct dates. But like I said, the day before the volunteer luncheon, where I was wanting to say that the collective 2,500 volunteer hours had a value of
Yep.
39,000, almost $40,000. I just put you guys in fast. All right, so
Thank you.
For, like in Cheryl's case, is there a remote login she could use to log in and log her own hours?
that's a very good question.
Because also too, is anybody attending something else like from that remote or from that through, even through the owl and the hybrid? Sort of collecting that type of,
so for participation statistics, I will go back and enter manually. But like for Cheryl, it would be ideal if,
yeah, she
so
could,
you can go in for My Active Center. There's a couple of ways I think we could make it work. So let me look into that, and get
Okay.
back to you guys
Thank
on
you.
that.
Thank you.
I also, I don't know if this is the appropriate point, but I had gotten asked a question, I had to plead my ignorance. Does the senior center allow gift certificates for the Mark bus? Allow a gift certificate, like if, let's say somebody has a senior neighbor and they want to give them something little. Could they give them like a $25 gift certificate so they could ride the Mark bus or something?
Well, right now, the buses are all free. Through
Okay.
to June 30th, they're all
Yeah, I've
free.
forgotten about that.
After that, some senior centers do, so we're paying just by the ride. And we were paying $1 each way for the rides. Some senior centers charge a little bit more than that, and then they do like each ride is this much or 5 rides for that much, and then it's either managed on an honor system or a punch card. I haven't operationalized any of that because I've never really had anyone interested, but if you thought there was interest in that, once the fares come back, as I can't imagine that they will continue to be free after the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd be happy to look into
I mean, like I
it.
said, that was just something that was brought up to me, and as she said, she says it was great. We had a couple of elderly neighbors, so for like Christmas or for something else like that, we could give them something like $25 as so they could get around
Yeah.
from the bus type of deal.
We also have the meal certificates that you guys give to everybody, for Christmas, at the holiday
Yeah.
luncheon. So it would not be hard to sort of morph that into
Model it into something like that.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
yeah. Okay.
And the Emerson shuttle that leaves from the library, that funding runs out at the end of June? Or not, or.
That one might have just started an 18-month grant, because I think that the microtransit one is also an 18-month grant, which means they started in like January and they've used these first few months as planning and organization, and then it will run through to the following June,
Okay.
June 30th, yeah.
I mean, I would encourage, and the other thing, not to go too far afield, is that when these transportation options are available, it's important to kind of fill them. That is,
People are using.
and one thing that they were saying at the meeting I was, is that if it's not well attended, or if, there's a budgetary, the ones that aren't being used in a rational world will be the
Right.
ones that are gonna be. So for public consumption, if you need to go to Concord, Emerson, take the shuttle, even if you own a car,
Right,
it's a lot less expensive, it can be quite convenient, and you're.
yeah, they go 5 times a day, so
Yeah.
not have to deal with traffic.
I've heard people use it.
I've seen it pull out with one or two people on it multiple times. I'm not, obviously not surveilling it, but,
But then they gotta stop and have it and.
yep. Yep, so I think and the ridership takes time, because just like when the hospital closed, the emergency departments felt the impact immediately, but it took us 2 or 3 months to really start to see the impact, because it wasn't like everybody had a doctor's appointment scheduled or a procedure or something scheduled for the day after the hospital closed.
Right.
So if things are happening on a quarterly or an annual basis, it takes, some time for that.
Yep.
Let's see, so while we're on transportation, I'm excited to welcome our new van coordinator, Donna.
Yeah.
Her first day will be, the 19th. I think she's gonna be in training all day on the 19th of March, but she will be starting, and she's gonna work roughly noon to 8 p.m. And the idea is that she will be, doing dispatch, ride scheduling in the afternoon when she's here. And I was just working on draft changes to the newsletter for pushing some of our shopping trips back a little bit further in the day to open up more afternoon, because right now on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday in the afternoon, the van is kind of out of commission for errands and doctor's appointments, because we're going to Walmart, Target,
Okay, Market Basket.
and then Market Basket on Wednesdays, and then Fridays is Loaves and Fishes. So by pushing some of those trips back later into the afternoon, then that gives Sam probably another 2 hours worth of appointment and errand time. And then that, though it may be a little bit busier in the grocery at 3 or 4 o'clock, it should still be a good, it should still work out.
Do you folks do a run to the movie theater for the matinee, like senior discount day, like Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon?
I have done it in the past. I typically do it in July or August. Hey, Ken. July or August, and then I will do it again in January or February. I usually only have 2 or 3 people that want to go each time. And as an activity, it's a little bit logistically, like it's a 2-step logistically one, because the movie theater only puts out the movie schedule 7 days in advance. So I have to publish it in the newsletter as it will be Tuesday, the 24th. Movie to be determined. And then 7 days before, I have to go look up what the movies are that fall within a 1-hour time frame. And then I call everybody who signed up and say, these are your 2 movie choices. Which one do you want to go to? And then I buy those tickets, but then I buy those in advance. But then when we have cancellations, which we always have cancellations, that's just the nature of senior programming, then the senior center eats the cost of those. So it's, for something so small, it has a little extra logistical thing in it, which is not a big deal. But I will do that on in the hottest and the coldest months. Let's see. So then in June's schedule, and everyone will have to hopefully be patient. It will take a little bit of time to really get into a groove of how many events is enough events to meet the demand. And also understanding that almost everything that I do here is subsidized. So if instead of going to the theater once every 3 months, we're going every month, I just can't subsidize it at the same rate, right? Because we're doing it more frequently.
Right.
So there will be more events, they will be less subsidized, or they may be unevenly subsidized. Maybe this one will only be this much and that one will be that much. It will become a little bit more complex equation. But I think overall it's gonna be great because.
But you won't run both buses for like beach trips or.
So there's one bus, we don't have a second bus, so
Okay,
there's.
so when Sam is doing his scheduling.
So Sam will be driving between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. like he
yeah.
normally is. And then the idea is that between 12 and 4, Donna is in the office doing the scheduling. So that will really take a load off of Mary Ellen and I.
Yeah.
Sam doesn't do very much scheduling. He's in the van all day. So that will really take a load off of Mary Ellen and I for the
Yeah.
dispatching that
Yeah,
we've been
that's great.
doing. And then free us up for other tasks. And then from roughly 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., she on some but not all days, she will be doing the later afternoon shopping trips. She'll be doing social events, things like that. So,
No, that's good.
yeah, so it will take onboarding always takes a couple of months to really get into the groove. But I'm looking forward to that. So to answer your question, so most of the time, 12 people is a manageable number of people.
Mhm.
Even 12 is hard for some supper clubs because not all restaurants can really accommodate us. So there's the possibility to rent a second van. So from Mart, it's about $50 every time we rent it. So for certain things, we may choose to increase the capacity to 24. But again, I want to set reasonable expectations. We won't be suddenly showing up at Tiny's with 24 people. Because it overwhelms a lot of restaurants. Theater tickets, maybe possibly it would depend upon the event, because again, my budget only stretches so far. So sometimes we have done $50 or $60 tickets for $25 or $30. Well, I can't subsidize at that rate for 24
That's
people.
ridiculous.
Right. So it'll be a balance. It's gonna be something I'm gonna need a little time to work out so that our events remain accessible to the people who really need them to be low cost, but that we are offering more events to kind of meet the demand so that people can spread out between them.
Yep.
Yeah, all right, let's see. As we discussed, the new Emerson shuttle has been in place for about a month now. I think it's picking up in popularity. And starting just last week, a Mart subsidized taxi, they call it like micro transit. But it's operates originating in Ayer. It's an individual taxi service that can go up to 20 miles away, and that one is not free. There is a sliding scale depending upon how many miles you're going to. So between our second driver coming on, the Emerson shuttle and the micro transit grant, right now, those Gina 9 people are right. Like, we've got a lot of really good transportation options coming together.
I haven't heard anybody use that one yet. The $4 up to
Oh,
$7.
I have not, no.
I haven't either. I'm curious about it. So.
Yeah.
Cause that can take them up to the National Mall, down to the Solomon
Yeah.
Pond.
Anything within 20 miles. Yeah, so it's a really flexible option.
Yeah, so I'm curious.
And that had pretty good times too, if I recall, it was like 5:30 a.m. to 12 a.m.
Right.
12,
At 10 p.m. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm curious about that one.
So, all right, then I think the only thing I didn't mention so far is the senior center building committee update. We're just continuing to move forward with schematic design. A lot of that is now on the architect, getting into kind of the nitty gritty of this is how far apart the beams need to be, things like that. And the utilities planning, a lot of work going into, getting the utilities all set, teed up and ready to go so that we know what the logistics would be, what the pricing would be, so that we can have as accurate as possible cost estimate for the project to take to town meeting in October. Anything you wanted to add to that? Okay. We have another member of the building committee in the audience. Anything he wants to add to that? Okay, all right. All right, so then, that's everything I have for my report.
And I see new volunteer opportunities coming up. on your to be determined?
My what?
Do you have down here?
Oh, yes. I didn't have anything specific, so I just, nothing specific for the rest of May. I did get a call actually, actually, let me put that in there. So I'm working with the high school about
Yep.
being a site to be, they have an intern placement for high schoolers. That was sort of a natural evolution of this career fair, and I guess it's in its third year maybe now. And so they have a ton of kids that are being placed, many of them with public safety, with other town departments and local businesses. It's something they do every day during their they have like an independent study period. So there's a lot of details to work out because they run a rotating schedule. So one day you start with A day and it's class A is first, and the next day is B day. So you
Yeah.
never have math.
Right.
It's, designed to make it so if you're better learning in the morning or better learning in the afternoon, you're rotating through which classes are in those time periods. So, I'm working on a plan, to get one, maybe two interns that would start in the fall.
Oh, good.
It will take, that would be kind of complex because every 7 days, they'll be here at a different time every single day. So trying to forecast that through for a whole month to make them useful for senior facing programs is gonna be it's gonna involve a little bit of calculus, but I feel like I can get there. Yeah. And then, I got a call yesterday from the wrestling coach and they are looking for opportunities to volunteer. So I have them signed up. I was really excited that it occurred to me the moment they can use their muscles and scoop all of the Kimball's ice cream for the ice cream social. And then I'm gonna keep thinking about,
I was thinking,
additional opportunities.
sumo wrestling or jujitsu.
Oh, a demonstration? They could do a wrestling demonstration. Maybe so, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
so we'll see where that goes. It's kind of funny because for a period of time, while I had the grant funding, it's
You
like,
nobody.
I've had nobody. And then in the last month or so, and that grant was done at the end of March, so
Yeah.
in the last month, I've had a couple of people reach out interested in volunteering, so. You never know, so I will do my best to incorporate them in and, maybe we can still, because I did offer cyber seniors again, and no one showed up again, even on April vacation week, so, I'll keep.
It's all the coaches need hours for their. I know the baseball teams, they do, a baseball game with this, with disabled.
Mhm. Yeah.
All the kids have downs and they go and play with them.
And that's the thing, so it's never been
Yeah.
whether or not people needed their volunteer hours, it's about capturing the right kids at the right
Right.
time to assist with the right projects, so.
Yeah.
So that's an ongoing priority,
Yeah.
and, Dennis was helpful enough to hook me up with UMass Lowell. And I didn't meet I guess I didn't meet their criteria for placing a student. And then they had a leftover straggler student that they offered to me, and then it was very difficult to coordinate a schedule with that person. So that did not work out. I'll still go back to them again. Because at least as a college kid,
Yep.
there might be additional things.
In the upper echelons, I think there was some clear and legitimate interest from that professor that we were speaking with, that he would welcome an opportunity to get his folks some
Right.
hands-on opportunity, especially with the building coming on and all the rest of it.
Mhm.
I think he seemed legitimately hopeful that they could get some bodies here. But it wasn't an issue of money, like they wanted to be paid and we.
I was willing to pay them out of the formula grant.
Wow.
So, which I mean, is probably not the best use of I mean, that's not how I would have preferred to do it.
Hmm.
But I was willing to offer a stipend. At the time, I was trying to say, can we get them in, because I can fold them in under doing tech help under the hybrid programming grant, because I had that money. But yeah,
So when would you reach out to him for the fall semester? Or what are the logistics of that? What would that?
probably in early August, I could remind him that I'm looking for when the classes start in August. That then I'm looking, because they'll start mid to late August,
Yeah, yeah,
that I would be looking for somebody.
yeah. Okay. No, I
And of
think
course, it's, you know, it, with UMass Lowell, there's the money part, there's the geography part. You know, it's a long drive if they live in that area. If they live down here and they're commuting up to school, then maybe it's not, so.
Do they have a car?
Yeah.
And do they?
Yes, so, yeah, so lots of.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of senior centers have an actual person part-time called the volunteer coordinator, and that is their job. Because it takes a lot of logistics to get an internship program set up. Once it's rolling, it's much easier. But getting them set up is often a long, so I'm gonna keep trying. So, yep. All right, that's all I
Lots
have.
of good things coming.
Yeah.
Katie, I just wanted to say what a great job you do with that report and the activities. I am impressed every month.
Oh, thank you, Cheryl, that's sweet.
Okay, continuation of the fiscal and assets management.
Okay, did anybody have any questions on the first section that we had done the last time? Nope, okay.
No,
So where were
I
we?
think we.
So now we start at eight, which is on page 41.
And Cheryl, do you have that in front of you, or would you like
Well,
me to
I was wondering if you
screen
could,
share?
if you could please screen share. I have it
That
downloaded,
was
but I'm
me.
afraid I'm gonna lose you if I navigate away from
Not a
Zoom.
problem.
That
And I
would be
did
fabulous.
attach that.
Thank you.
To pull that up.
Yeah, that was attached to the agenda.
Yeah.
I did that one.
For some reason, the Zoom feed is very slow. I don't know if it's on my end, but you folks are all frozen.
Yeah,
I
I
was
see
watching,
that.
I was actually watching the owl and it doesn't seem to be moving as it used to.
No,
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's like all the background noise, like I wonder if like the phone is ringing, but I don't.
I'm not sure. I'm wondering if there's a software update.
Okay.
Do you want me to pull up the original one, or do you want me to pull up your document?
It doesn't matter.
the one that I attached was the one you sent me. That was the one we were working.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
but
then
we've
let
only
me-
finished the first seven.
Right.
We haven't made any other notes, so either
No.
one would work. Since we're just talking about them.
Okay, so then I go back to the Zoom here. Share that. Okay, Cheryl, can you see that?
It's rendered. Yes, I can see it. Thank you.
Okay, so we were on number 8, is that correct? Okay. All right.
Yeah, I have a couple of checks on it, but not all.
So we were talking about the internal control systems
Mhm.
and they're looking for written procedures. So in
Mhm.
some respects, Katie, this is. So because we're in the municipality and the way the municipality works, how much of this is actually directly impacting the center?
So I have to follow all the town procedures and I have to manage all of that. Nope, I don't have an administrative assistant. There's no one acting in that capacity for me at town hall.
But like recording cash receipts, depositing cash.
I do all that. I mean,
Cash, okay, so we do all this and there's all sorts of.
But the procedures that you follow as you do all of that
Are the,
are the town's procedures, that you don't have a separate set of procedures.
I can tell you what I do for each step along the way, if that's helpful. So
are they
like,
written?
I'm just wondering, that is the internal control system that is in place here at the senior center is in fact, the town's internal control system that you have adopted for the senior center.
Yes, and sometimes I have an additional layer. But broadly speaking, yes. So recording of cash receipts. So for example, in its most literal sense, I do not have a carbon copy receipt thing. Like I'm not giving seniors receipts for their payments that they are making. And yet I do document each and every, for my own purposes, each and every payment that comes in and what it's for. And then when I do a turnover, the form that I use for a turnover is a town form. And so there's a line for each thing. So it gets labeled, and I think that was in the original packet that I had sent out. So like senior fees for the theater. And then it will show the account number that those fees are supposed to be deposited into and the dollar value. And then I do that for meals, for our catered meals, for the mock meals, for our programs, when the Mart van was collecting, fares. I'm trying to think of other, I don't have that sheet right in front of me, but there's, for almost all of my accounts that convert my revenue accounts, there's a line for each one of those, and I detail like a memo for them, and I add that up. And then I take that over to town hall, over to the treasurer's office and submit it. They count the money and verify that it is the dollar value. Then I have to sign it, they have to sign it. I have to make 2 copies. One goes to the town accountant's office, one goes back to the treasurer's office, and one signed copy stays with me. And then each of us is required to save those for 7 years, so like 7 years.
Is that process written down?
Is it,
Because this is looking specifically for written procedures. So if somebody was gonna audit it, they'd be able to take that procedure and do.
so let me just see if,
Well, wouldn't the town's accountant or treasurer have that?
I'm just gonna look how,
Yeah, and it's sort
what
of,
level, so the question is what level of detail? So if I look on the accountant's website, this part is not sharing. Cheryl, hang on just 1 second.
Mhm.
Under financial policies, now let me go back and stop sharing. And then let me start sharing again. Okay, so now I'm sharing the town financial policies, and pardon me while I scroll. mm, 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 mm. So I'm not sure that level of detail.
but I guess is the center itself does not control these items. So do we put the same thing that says it's a town procedure and all departments in the town follow the same procedure?
Seems logical.
Yeah.
I mean, that's sort of where you're going to it.
Right, I mean, I think that the internal control system is the town's internal control system
Right.
that
So
the senior center has adopted, and I'm assuming that each of these items, A through I, there are, it looks like all of those things are controlled by the town and are in fact.
So, my thought is to just make a statement that says the senior center follows the town's,
Internal control.
follows the town's procedures on these items, and that would then lead into.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah, because that's not.
Okay, so
You
let me
can't
just
change
see,
them.
yeah, so. That would be true for A and B.
Pretty much all of them.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's any separation of cash handling and record keeping at my level.
We're basically saying it's going to roll right up into the town.
Right.
Well, I'm just looking to see if there's anything in any of
That's
these
not
that
a-
I do that is worthy of noting, that is above and
Okay.
beyond what,
Most of these
see.
are.
Yeah, and no, all of those roll up
Yeah,
into
to
the
the
town
town.
policy,
Mhm.
yeah. Okay,
Insurance covers at the town level as well? You don't have your own?
correct, all of the town level.
The town with the question mark.
And Carly had written, I had asked her about that. And she basically had said, you know, I said, can you send me an email that says the town has all the coverages that meet these items
Mhm.
9A through, sorry,
Yeah, through the next one through G, A through.
9A through G, so
Yep.
yes, that's all covered.
Yep.
Um. So, you
But
know,
is the
one.
bus, the C under?
So,
Mount?
so the Mart owns the van,
Yeah,
and then the town insures it.
okay.
Yep. So,
That question, yeah.
um,
Not-
town insured. And then in terms of volunteers. Volunteers are covered for medical, but not property. So if you crash your car
Mhm.
while delivering Meals on Wheels, the town is not. You're not covered under the town, you're covered under your own auto insurance. But if you crash the car and you get injured, then the town will pay your medical bills. So if you're gonna do it well. No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
I feel a slip and fall coming on.
No,
So if you're in an event and you get stung by a bee and you're allergic, then you'd be covered, that kind of thing?
Right, so it covers.
don't
So,
even say that.
so volunteers are covered under the medical portion.
Yeah.
And they are covered in terms of liability,
Right.
under the liability insurance. But they are town property, like town vehicles are covered
Under the town.
under the town policy, but volunteers' vehicles being
Are
used
not, right.
in
Town.
for town purposes are not covered.
Okay. So we're gonna say that, yes, it meets that criteria. Has the center made plans to continue critical functions after a disruption?
So I think that's something that I'd say no. And I think that that's something that deserves some merit. So
I don't disagree.
we have, I've explained to you sort of
Yep.
the large snow emergency plan that came from, participating in the CERT team. But I do think that some sort of emergency planning or contingency planning is something that we
Should be done.
Yeah.
So we have a quasi weather related as long as it's. Correct?
Mhm.
So weather related is yes, it's the other ones that sort of
Mhm.
extended power outages, technology breakdowns. Or sudden loss of a significant staff.
I would say, yeah, sudden loss of a significant staff. So weather-related damage to a physical plant, no. Extended power outages would simply be a closure. Technology breakdowns, that's, no. So really, I think,
Yeah, I think that there's a. Part of the intent of this question is, God forbid, if the building burns down, would you still be able to provide meals for folks who? Or if, if this place were to get flooded out, how would you continue your most
Right.
critical operations?
Some of it also goes to COVID. What did you do during COVID? How did you make, when shutdowns happen,
right,
for outreach purposes or for
Right.
Meals on Wheels? So some of it goes to that as well too.
So I think that what are the most critical functions that you engage in? And how would you preserve those if the worst were to happen? And it may be.
Yeah.
The meal portion or the social outreach portion or whatever.
Mhm.
And again, I don't have a clear sense of exactly how you define that, but whatever those things are, how do you keep them going if the worst happens?
Right, and I think that's what needs to be developed into a plan, right? Because I think depending on these 4 scenarios, the plan will be different,
Right, no, I think we've talked about that.
but there is no written one.
There is,
Are you looking at a generator, the new center?
Yes,
And there's no kind of easy answer to, well, what would you set up as a temporary site for 6 months in order to carry on the
but
work?
that is what having an emergency plan is important for, is because that means that you've thought it out, you've worked out the tentative agreements for and all of that. So what I was hoping would come from each one of these is that you guys would make recommendations. Is there something that needs to be done ASAP because it's really critically behind? Or is there something that should be a goal for FY 26, let's call it?
Katie,
So-
do you, or anybody know if there are MEMA standards for senior centers in the event of a natural disaster at the state level? Are there any regulations or guidance
Not-
that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I could look into it. I suspect that there
this-
are not, only because every town's senior center situation is so different.
Different.
But I
I'm
think
just
we
thinking
just
it might
need,
help us reinvent the wheel if they were, if
Right.
there were plans in place at the
So-
local, yeah.
so the Mass Councils on Aging, we have a networking site and includes a file share, and there are some emergency plans that are up there. So if you guys vote to make creation of emergency contingency plans a priority, a strategic priority for me to create, to do either immediately or to do in FY 26, then I will, look into doing that. I think that's hopefully the action item that comes from each one of these, is evaluating which things
Yep.
need work done now, which things need work done later, and which things are just not priorities.
Yeah, my thought was we got through the whole assessment and then pulled out all of those assessment types of things.
Okay.
So we have that list, then go from there and prioritize them.
Yeah.
Figure out what's important.
Okay,
I mean, and some of this stuff may have to wait for
a new
a
center.
new center.
Right.
And if that doesn't happen, then figure out. Okay,
Yeah, but if it has an emergency, to keep it open, I don't think you could right now.
Well, I mean, for this particular line item, brainstorming, where did you move to if you had to move for whatever reason? And what might, and with the new center, that would be highly unlikely just because of the nature of the building and the redundant safety systems in place, and it isn't gonna burn down and it isn't gonna flood. And we have control over it.
But you have a generator,
What's that?
you have a generator.
Yeah, but for here, so. I mean, the one action item in this is identifying an alternative location, but I'm not sure that that work is necessary until we know what a total is.
Right.
so I think that's where I would encourage you guys to be the advocates and the strategic thinkers. Rather than you guys trying to figure out where I would open up tomorrow if I need to, is that you guys should set a priority for me to develop a contingency plan. And then my job is to develop the contingency plan.
Right,
good.
So, you know,
Maybe the for different things, working with a member of the board or something like that, so you're not totally doing it on your own.
right. So, because, I could speculate on a couple of things that I think could be options, right?
Yeah.
And then I can bring them back to you guys
Yeah.
and say, these are options. What do you guys think strategically,
Yeah,
right? Because
Absolutely.
there could very well be a fire in this building.
Yeah. Right.
Mhm.
So the next sections were, yeah,
Nothing fire or otherwise.
they talk about what we talked about, the rationale.
yeah, what was the next section we were gonna do?
It's the same, the fiscal plan and back in the back. Because there are still some questions back there. Items on site. if we were going to answer that or not.
No, I think those sort of went to,
With the,
with the questions that we went through.
Okay.
They sort of this is what we were talking about.
Yeah.
In this section here for those types of things. Was,
So like if we were actually going for accreditation, you know, you would have gone through this process and you would have said, okay, do you meet these 5 standards? So preparation and publishing of an annual budget document, yes.
Mhm.
Budget reports on a regular basis to the appropriate governing board, yes. Budget conform to the appropriate standard, yes. Insurance coverage for the appropriate things, yes. Provisions have been made for critical functions after disruption, no. So my accreditation could not happen based on this. So then it would be a critical priority during the accreditation year, like when you're applying, is that gets created. So it gets created as part of the process, and then you're granted the accreditation at the end. So
if we had identified, we ready to go for the first, what was it? What was the next one?
I wanna say 7, 3.
Was it 7, 2, and 8? 2 is, or 1 is, maybe it was 1. 1 is the purpose and planning. I think that was one. I was trying to find, I thought I had written a sticky note with it,
No, it was written somewhere.
but I know
It's in
it
the
is,
minutes of one of the meetings.
I know, I just didn't, I thought I pulled it out separate so that we had. So I didn't have to go to minutes every time if I knew question. Oh, yeah, it was 9, 1, and 7. So it was facility and operations, purpose and planning, and physical and asset. So which one do we want to do now? Do we want to do 9 facility or 1 purpose and planning?
Facility. Feels more concrete to me. So to speak.
Okay, so that's
So that's
9.
9.
Okay. So which of the following are true for the location of the center? Acceptable based on demographic information? Hello?
Yep.
Now, is this the new center that's being proposed or?
No, this one,
Current.
The
this
existing
one.
center, so think of the existing center
Yeah.
and how it works.
Location is acceptable based on demographic information, no.
I mean, you can go either way, I think it is,
It
only
is.
because it's sort of in that middle of town.
Yeah,
It's within a walking distance of the downtown.
yeah.
It's within a walking distance of the library, within,
Of senior
Yeah.
housing?
you
Yeah,
can have senior housing, so it gives you
Well-
that sort of.
Right, but it doesn't. But the number of attendees and the fact that there are 2,000 seniors and.
But you've got to take
relatively
it,
small fraction are in fact coming.
but is that because of its location?
Substantially, I think, yes.
I don't think so.
There's inadequate parking, it's not
Yeah.
visible from the street.
But that's not what it's asking, Dennis.
But
This
it's
is
not
acceptable
asking.
based on demographic information. The other answers may be buried in other questions, but
Mhm.
that first
well,
question,
but I guess it
These
depends
says-
on,
There is adequate parking.
no.
so I guess the question is, what I think you're saying.
Which
is-
demographics? Yeah,
Right, is which demographics? Are you saying is the location acceptable based on how many seniors there are in town? Or are you saying is the size? You know what I'm saying? I think this is true for location.
This is just location.
Because the first one's location, access,
Mhm.
the number 3 is about visibility. Number 4 is about the actual
Parking.
built piece. Number 5 signage,
Well,
so
Structural
but it-
barriers with difficult terrain.
In number 1, right, just what I'm
I
looking,
mentioned that.
all right, let's leave A off for a matter.
There are
Is it
sidewalks.
adequately located in good proximity to other services and facilities?
People here walk to the train.
People who, Who walks the train for them?
Kim Karen. They walk to the library,
Right, so
so
answer to B is yes.
I say yes.
It is
They
convenient
walk to
transportation
shop
or
and
has safe
save.
walking conditions.
Once
Yeah.
you get out of the parking lot, yes.
And it does, but it does have sidewalks going up
Yeah.
to the parking lot.
There is adequate parking, no.
No,
Structural barriers or difficult terrain.
yes.
Yes,
No, there are no structural barriers.
there are not, and,
This isn't ADA compliant.
and
So there are no, so it's a false statement, so no, there aren't, it doesn't,
well, people ride wheelchairs around.
it has difficult.
And they use
terrain.
walkers.
It's structural barriers and it is difficult terrain.
All right. I think we just looked at this, so you're saying yes. I think we just read the question, we looked at it.
No, I'm saying no, there are no, it's a double negative, it's a
Yeah.
double.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Safety and security of participants has been considered, yes. Expand the footprint of the building or expand it other ways, obviously, no.
does the building provide barrier-free access to the facility? Nope. Yeah. So I said too. All right. Which are following true for the senior center? It is visible and easily recognized.
I say no.
No. It's the external appearance is attractive and well-maintained.
No.
Its location is easily found. No.
And again, I don't know how many people I've talked to who have lived in town for,
Hundreds of years and don't know where it is.
don't know where it is,
Yeah.
couldn't find it.
Yeah.
Give them a map.
Yeah, my first time here, I found it, no issues.
Identification.
The
sign.
sign is visible and
I know,
clearly
I
indicate
know.
the purpose of the facility.
There is a sign up there.
There is a sign, it's a small sign, and I think because it's in the housing, it gets sort of buried with
It
everything,
does,
so I
yeah.
would say no.
So,
So do you agree or disagree? I mean, it's through no fault of the centers, it's just, you know.
yeah, but remember, I'm not
Yeah.
making any of this personal. This
Right.
is not
Yeah.
personal. So, I would say that there are signs. There are signs out by the courthouse. There are signs at the bottom of the driveway there, and there's a sign in front of the door.
Mhm.
Are they visible and clearly indicate the purpose of the facility? No. So
Yeah.
I would answer that, no.
That's what I answered.
But if you wanted to answer it technically, yes, you could say yes.
There
So-
are, I mean, I'll make a note, there are signs.
Signs
they are
could be-
not-
Could be big.
They are not large.
Yeah, I mean, they don't like having
They
a
don't
sign
stand
on
out.
this building
Right.
versus one that's perpendicular to this building, for example, where you could see it as you approached.
Yeah.
As I say to people, take the middle driveway.
Mhm.
There are three
Yeah,
driveways,
yeah.
three options.
Katie, do we know, other than English, what is the second language in the town? And do we need signage in two languages? Is that something that's indicated? Is there a Spanish?
You know, I don't know, and that's a really good question, Cheryl. Let me see if I can find that out.
That we match the demo, just because I know the
Right.
hospital has to demographically match the patient population with signage. It's a big federal
Yeah.
regulation, and we want to make sure that if there are
Yes,
people in town,
That's a great question. I'll find that out.
thank you.
That's probably published. It might be outdated now,
Maybe
but
census stuff.
Alan used to publish that on the town's website. Obviously, everything we do here is in English and seems to work for
Right.
everybody, but that's a self-confirming bias that, you know, 'cause people who can't read our newsletter are not attending our programs.
Right.
So, all right.
All right, so indicate true or false for the senior center or planned for. Adequate controls for HVAC
You put
system.
in that new HVAC,
I would say no.
didn't you?
No, so so this one is on its last leg.
Mhm.
The other window unit is on its last leg. the, portable one is in there and works, and I moved it to the other side of the fireplace last year to kind of spread out the sound a little bit.
Yeah.
But it is still very hot and stuffy, and there is no ventilation back in
Okay.
the staff part of the building. So I would say no, it is
Yeah.
not adequate.
So false.
Illumination levels are adequate.
I mean, by today's standards, no, but I don't really hear anybody complaining about the,
The lights,
yeah.
the fluorescent.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll defer to you guys on how you wanna, is that?
We're always saying.
It's pretty bright.
They're bad.
Oh, so all right, so you were hearing seniors saying that it's bad? Okay, so no on that one, all right.
Natural light is used when possible.
Well, I mean,
I said no.
I say no, okay,
Only because just where you are, you just don't have a lot of windows.
yeah.
Acoustical services are used where possible. Yeah, it's a no.
I mean, that's a no, not in any kind of concerted way, yeah.
Amplification systems are available.
No,
Nope.
Technology is used in different areas.
I mean, we're
Using it now.
Yeah, we're using it now, so I get that was this.
Yes.
We're a green building
No.
and the use of energy is efficient where possible.
I mean, I would say yes to
Yes.
that because anything I'm purchasing has to meet certain state requirements.
So not any of the no's at this stage of the game, there's really nothing new planned. You're not
There's
looking
nothing
to put
planned
in.
for now.
Okay,
So when you could say at the new building, it would be planned
Yeah.
for, but because that's not a guarantee, I would say at this stage of the evaluation to just,
say no.
yeah, okay.
The following is true for the signage of the senior center. There is identification of different areas. Nope, it's really not applicable, right? There's only one room.
No, but I mean, there's no signage that says go this way for fitness programs, go this way for meals.
Okay.
This is the staff area. The only signs we really have are the signs that say don't enter the kitchen, only for kitchen volunteers.
Okay.
There
And
were,
finally, the cord.
yeah, so, yeah, I mean, that's just that's a personal preference issue. I dislike a lot of signs and rules and like
Well, but there are a lot
authoritarian feel
There's
to
a lot
the,
of different areas. I mean, there's also
Right.
too, is like, this room is not just the fitness area, it's used for a multitude of things.
right.
So unless you had a sign that you could change.
Yeah.
It would be.
But there is no, for example, like when you attend a conference where there's a little placard outside that
Mhm.
says 9 a.m. this, 10 a.m.
Oh,
this, 11, that sort of thing. Like, there will be in the new center.
Different, yeah.
It'll
Have a
be,
TV.
well, not outside, but
No,
they have
but
together, but there
yeah.
will be signs.
That's
You know,
what I-
probably the plaque
Mhm.
for the naming rights will have a drop-in plexiglass underneath it where you can put the schedule of events.
Okay.
And I have found over time, it's very easy to have 5 of them and they just rotate what's through to the front on each day, because a lot of our programming is regular. On Tuesdays, room usage looks like this, on Wednesdays, it looks like that, you know.
Right.
Yep.
Your exits are identified with signs.
Yes.
There is a place for announcements of current activities on the board, so yeah.
On the bulletin board and on the table tins. And thank
There
you
is
to Mari for
information
doing the
about
bulletin board.
future activities.
No problem.
I said that, yes.
Yes, between the
Yeah, between all the
newsletters,
stuff
table
you have.
tins, yeah.
There is general information about the senior center.
So then,
Let's see.
What are we on? 9?
Yeah,
I
5, but wouldn't you call that the newsletter and,
Yeah, if they're missing a word there is general information about the senior center, then I think the newsletter covers that well. Yeah,
This is standard 9, and
I
if
would
I go
say-
back to standard 9,
If you look on page 4, like the upper part,
Mhm.
there's more questions that are there that are involved into those sections.
yeah, but I'm. But I'm sorry, I was expecting number 5 on this page 49 to correspond to number 5 on this criteria, and it doesn't.
No, it
So,
doesn't. No, that it does not do. You have to sort of,
general and specific information about the senior center. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I would say yes through the newsletter.
okay,
The great newsletter.
Thank you.
right. This is true for the senior center facility. The toilet facilities are easily accessible, clean, sufficient, and in good condition.
No. They're not accessible. They are cleaned once a day, but they are rarely clean.
Mm.
And
That's simply because of the age of
They're
the
not
house.
sufficient to meet
Yeah,
some
okay.
people's needs.
right, I mean, I think we could probably use one more stall per gender. And they are in as, now that the flooring has been redone, they actually are in pretty good condition. Housing does a good job keeping them repaired. It's just they are being used they're not accessible and they're being used at a very high rate, and I
Okay.
don't have time to go in and
No.
clean them in the meantime.
Right, also
No.
space is adequate.
No.
No,
Environment provides for groups of all sizes to come together. No.
no,
Universal design solutions have been incorporated into the building. No. All right, so number 7, when examining the interior design and furnishings, which are true for the senior center. The furnishings appear to be comfortable, safe, and easy to maintain. I'd say so, yes.
Yeah, I think you've done a pretty good job.
You've done a very good job with,
I mean,
with what you,
I've
with
done,
what you have in the
yeah, I'd
space that
say,
you have.
yeah,
So,
I would say yes.
The placements of furnishings compensate with visuality and mobility limitations. There again, too, I'd say yes, with the best,
So. Yes, to a point.
yeah.
So I'm constantly moving things around so that they suit the different events that we're doing or to keep things cognitively stimulating. But we are limited in the number of ways when someone has like an electric wheelchair or a regular wheelchair or even a walker. There are limited places for each one of those individuals to be. So, yeah.
So we'll say yes with a star or no with a
Yeah,
star.
yes with a comment.
Yeah.
Cause you're doing comments throughout this, right?
Yeah.
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 On different items that we really need some more clarification, yes.
And then low,
The placement of
What's low?
furnishings,
there's,
Okay.
yeah,
I'd almost say C goes with B in some
Yes.
respect.
yeah.
Floor coverings are appropriate for the activity.
How does the exercise instructor think of this floor in here?
Probably better than it was.
It's far better. I mean, the floor is far more even than it was. Yeah. I mean,
They use mats for yoga and they have chair, yeah,
I mean, carpet in the
yeah.
dining area is not ideal, but because the noise was so bad in there when I came in, I was like, we need to put carpet squares down in here, so, yeah.
And it's still loud when it's full.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you wanna, yes,
yeah,
I'm gonna go for yes,
Okay.
they're as right as
Yeah.
they're going to
Yeah.
be for right now.
regular reviews for risks and hazards are completed. Considering the following, loading and unloading areas, no. Exterior lighting after sunset,
No,
street or parking lot crossings, not
I
applicable.
don't think that's applicable, yeah.
Paved exterior walkways, it's not applicable.
So I would say it's not applicable as it relates to it's not my responsibility, but I would say yes, in that housing does as good a job as they can given the limits of the property, they do a good job keeping it free of snow and ice in the winter and stuff like that. So
Right.
however you wanna answer that.
Because they do have the sidewalks coming down.
Well, the relative slope coming down here from the houses up is too steep for, and the parking lot was not well maintained for multiple years until.
Right. Yeah,
So it's,
But they're,
so risks in hand, regular reviews for risks in hand, and yeah, I
But it's
would
gotten
say that they've
better.
done.
But if it's gotten better in the past, you can't go back 100 years now.
Mhm.
As much as we'd like to sometimes.
And that's
So to keep
not-
it more recent.
that's not, senior center.
Yeah, so I
That's
did,
housing.
I sort of said not applicable, but I made the note, Katie, that says is that the housing does keep pathways clear. I said, I'll pass, once I get it done, I'll pass it along to everybody so that everybody can sort of speak up anytime, Cheryl, if you have anything to say. Areas where spills or water accumulate.
I mean,
I don't know what you can even.
so a regular review. I mean, if a regular review involves me muttering under my breath that every time I go out the door, the rate, because there's no gutters and there's no things. What are those called? The little triangle thing that goes over the door? Like when I go out the staff door, the rain is just pouring down on my head, but that's not I mean, that's not, so it's not an official review. So I'm gonna go, no, one is needed
They
there.
know.
And there's a puddle right outside the staff door that freezes in the winter as well. So, but no, there's not a regular review of any of that.
Okay.
No, the cat, it was icy out there.
The safety of participants and staff is evident due to the following. Procedures, do you have anything, Cheryl?
No,
Okay,
That sounds
procedures
good.
for, procedures for egress of buildings and posted in each room.
No,
No. Staff are familiar with safety procedures such as CPR and use of an AED.
Yes.
Maintenance records of safety equipment, including the fire extinguishers.
Yes.
So I don't keep those things.
Do you have somebody like Keen come in and look at them?
So housing does. So it's either a yes or a non-applicable. So it's yes with the caveat that
Is
housing
that-
does it.
Do you have any fire extinguishers down here?
I do. There's one in the edge of the kitchen and one by the door.
So
over
does
there.
anybody come in and service them or look at them?
What was it?
Mhm.
They're supposed, it's supposed to be, there's a lot of times they
The
put
fire
it in.
department comes in and does inspections. They
Okay.
inspect the back room. They have tested the
Do they
fire
look-
alarm. So I assume they're looking.
Do they
at
look at
those.
the fire extinguisher?
Well, isn't there a little tag on the fire?
There should be a
extinguisher with
Wait, let me go check.
the-
Yeah.
Or the fire extinguisher.
Yeah, because usually they're good for like, what, 5 years? or
Well, the
something?
housing authority should be paying for a third party to come in, initial the fire extinguisher.
Yeah.
does the fire department inspect?
Yeah, they come down to inspect.
No, they have, Liberty comes in and does your fire extinguisher.
All right, there we go.
so that's a yes.
Yes. Either way, it's not something that I, as the tenant, am coordinating.
Yeah.
It's something that housing as the landlord is coordinating now.
So, but just in case, you'll have to do that. Regular maintenance and cleaning logs are kept.
No,
There are ongoing efforts of pest control.
yes.
All right.
When on an as-needed basis, I put in a work order with housing and they come spray or bait.
So here's the overall, does the senior center have safety and maintenance procedures in place?
I would answer that as a no,
Okay.
because there is no safety protocol and because I am a tenant, I'm getting my maintenance needs met on a as needed basis versus routine.
Means zone, okay. Agreements for rental or outside group usage are in place with the following part of the agreement. But it really is not applicable.
I think
correct?
it's not applicable, because right now we're not renting or allowing any
Yeah,
outside
outside
uses.
use. So, all right, so we've done section 9, and I know we have a hard stop at 4 o'clock for Cheryl. So.
Yeah.
It
Okay,
being 5 minutes and 4, I think it's,
Who has a motion? I make.
I have a make motion, you can make a motion,
I
oh, a second
to
motion.
adjourn. Cheryl,
I second. I would say yes.
Mary, aye, Dennis, me, aye, Paulus adjourn at 3:54.